Even with setbacks from injuries and rookies getting tons of playing time, defensive coordinator Sean McDermott has kept the team focused and aggressive. How about the adjustments you make out there? You know, I have this theory, the only way to be successful, analyze, adapt, and achieve. See what's going on out there, your adaptations or your audibles, and then achieve. You've done it. I mean, you know, in the fourth quarter, the Giants game, I mean, absolutely the most exciting game anybody's seen here. All of a sudden, you just shut that offense down. How's that happen?
Well, we have a great staff.
The Eagles win! The Eagles win! This is Miracle in the Meadowlands #2! And the Eagles have just pulled off the most remarkable win I have ever seen.
Merry Christmas, everyone, and welcome to Eagles Confidential, presented to you by Verizon Wireless. I'm your host, Vince Papale, and as a former player, I can tell you that it's always more fun when you're playing important games in December. We get our weekly dose of sideline access as our cameras never stopped rolling on the Eagles bench last week in North Jersey.
We need a sack now. We need a turnover. I'm putting it on you, Trent.
All day. I'll take all of them.
Make the delivery.
And Coach Bobby April takes some time with me to recap the year in special teams. Coach April, I have to tell you, this is the interview I wanted to do all year. The special teams
you're special teams guy.
Yeah, talking, you know, like who's nuts, right? Special teams guy
Exactly.
talking to special teams guy. And then, of course, the big game against the Giants, you're not going to believe this. You can consider all the ironies. I'm with Joe Pisarcik yesterday.
Wow.
I mean, I'm with Joe Pisarcik watching the Giants game, doing an autograph signing thing. And while we're there, of course, the Miracle of the Meadowlands is coming up. And when I leave, it's 24-3. And I get home, and it's still 24-3. And then all of a sudden something happens and the Eagles come back and they win this game.
It's amazing.
And the reason they won the game is clearly because of special teams. And the first thing I said after Deshaun's touchdown was special teams, baby, who's nuts? So take us back to some of those moments. First of all, I'd like to sort of get the feeling, what was going on in your head with the onside kick? Because that certainly was a momentum changer.
Well, you know, Coach Reed just jokingly told me, you know, great call on that onside, but it was really him all the way.
I'm looking now at the Kevin Cobb situation. You had a quarterback, Ron Jaworski, that started off, and I'll never forget that clip that they show all the time on NFL films. Where you got Jaws, you're my starting guy. I'm not, you know, I'm not going to bet you you're my guy.
The other thing I wanted him to know, that he was going to have to work his way through it. The hell with the booing. Toughen up and go through it. Don't be distracted by it and play football. You know, he's a tough guy. And that's one of the reasons we brought him there. We knew he could handle the development stage of his career in an intense environment. And all he did was get better.
Is that the kind of advice you would give to Kevin Cobb if you had him and you were coaching?
I like Kevin Cobb.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be successful.
Yeah, what do you see in him?
Well, first I see a guy that throws the ball accurately.
Yeah.
The number one way you evaluate a quarterback is what happens to the ball when it leaves your hand. Where does it go?
I know what preseason means. I lived it. I loved it. And I made it. You see a training camp, I see proving grounds. A place and a time to show what you can do, to find out who you are. Guys from everywhere and out of nowhere, looking for a shot, for a share of the spotlight, for the dream, to make the roster on the Super Bowl champs, for the dream. Taste some of that Steel City toughness, to dress in new gear in Philadelphia green. Eagles in flight on either side as you charge onto the field, feeling invincible. That's what it means. When the whistle blows, suck it up. When the wind gets knocked out of you, don't lose your will. Hold your own, grind them down, make your mark. And maybe you'll make the team. You have the body doubles, but you're pushing those guys aside as much as you can to play the role the way you think it ought to be played.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, that's what you were about on the field, you know what I mean? It was all or nothing, and that's what it's about. It's a lot easier for me to do a role like this because I enjoy the game so much. I have a desire to play the game. I've always wanted to be a professional athlete before I became an actor. So to have the opportunity, you know, I just want to be one of the guys.
I'm your host, Vince Papale. And if you're like me, the bye week couldn't go by fast enough. So let's get going as the second half of the season starts now.
1, 2, 3, finish him.
Since 1998, Juan Castillo has been the man behind the offensive line. And in those 13 seasons, teaching proper technique has been at the top of his list. As you're about to see, Coach Castillo and his players aren't afraid to share their knowledge with some local high schoolers. I know this control room looks really calm right now, but on game days, it transforms into the busiest room in the stadium. Here's an inside look at how one producer coordinates the team behind the big boards. Thank you for joining us here at Eagles Confidential, presented to you by Verizon Wireless. And please send me an email at etnshows@philadelphiaeagles.com, because we love to hear what you're thinking about the show. Hey, Vince, this one comes from Dan from Vineland. With all the talk and debate over concussions recently, in your opinion, what's the biggest thing the league can do to limit the amount of concussions? They're doing it. They've got this great awareness campaign, and I think that's what they need to do. Back in our day, it was a ding or ringing your bell, and that wasn't good enough. Terrence from Chester asks, Vince, as a former special teamer, why do you think the Eagles' punt and kickoff coverage has improved over the past couple of weeks? Very simple. They've got the right personnel in place right now. They understand the system, and they understand Bobby April. So maybe yours is the email I'll be reading next week, and please be sure to join us again. Go Birds!